In 1100 AD, the Kingdom of Scotland found itself at a turning point. For generations, the ancient Picts that inhabited the Highlands fought against each other for what little resources were available, before uniting against the invading legions of Rome to safeguard their homeland. This unity endured, giving birth to the kingdom we see before us now, only this time these hardy folk were united against their overly ambitious southern neighbours in England. Scotland's king, Edgar Probus, was a young 26-year-old who had ambitions of his own. He foresaw the establishment of a British Isles governed by a Scottish crown, not an English one. With his wife Albreda and trusted friend Reginald at his side, Edgar set about laying the foundations of his life's work that would eventually make his dream a reality. Edgar knew that he needed eyes in the south before he could make any moves against the English. He began by recruiting a local man to Edinburgh by the name of Philip into his service. Philip was a former scout in the Scottish Border Guard, keeping watch over the western coastline and protecting the small fishing communities from possible raiders. He would now serve the king directly by keeping watch to the south. Next, Edgar examined the state of his military and economy. His army was of ample stock, but slightly too low in number to invade anywhere. Thankfully, Scotland's economy was stable and actually quite strong for such a small nation, with no allies and little to no unique goods worth of trading. The king calculated that, with him in direct command of the army, he could recruit many young patriotic Scotsmen at a reduced expense to his purse. Therefore, he sent out word across the Highlands and Lowlands, asking for men wishing to make a name for themselves to gather in Edinburgh, to enlist and to train. Lastly, Edgar and his advisors overhauled the logistical capabilities of their military. Compared to the English, Scotland's logistics were rather rudimentary, easily overstretched and disrupted. Improving the availability of basic supplies to the troops would, in the long run, improve the army's overall condition, as well as save a few more pennies along the way. Diplomatically, Scotland was limited in its choices. The Norse planned to continue raiding the coastline of the British Isles and would not listen to any words of peace. Edgar had plans for invading England, and so negotiating with the English was also out of the question. And although the Irish shared many cultural similarities with the Scots, they wished to remain isolationists. The Welsh had yet to be contacted. Winter passed, and the early days of spring in 1101 AD brought excellent news. The logistical overhaul had been completed, and Edgar's army was now well supplied for the upcoming campaign. Additionally, the population in Edinburgh expanded greatly after Edgar's call to arms. People flocked to the capital in such large numbers that the city was now in need of expansion and development to accommodate this boom. With many more hungry mouths to feed, the king ordered the expansion of the homesteads to improve the yearly harvests. But more importantly, his army was now ready to march, and Philip had been keeping the king updated on the English movements in Yorkshire, the first English province that would be subdued. York's militia garrison had been weakened after years of Norse raids along the east coast, and although it was recovering slowly, it was not yet at full strength. Now was the time to strike. King Edgar led his army south of the border, expertly outmaneuvering the English scouting force that had been dispatched to follow them, and laid siege to York. Edgar's surprise assault on York was a resounding success. With minimal casualties compared with the utter devastation of the town garrison, the Scots had successfully gained complete control over northern England. King Edgar had learned a great deal from his first battle in command, and would put these new lessons to good use in future engagements to come. Philip, his job in York completed, was sent south to the next major settlement of Leicester. From here, he could identify any English counterattack that may come their way. The capture of York also meant the acquisition of its blacksmiths, and Edgar quickly set about equipping his fighting men with the better armour and weaponry than they could produce back home. News of the Scottish victory soon spread across the Isles. The Welsh finally made an appearance, offering trade to their new neighbours along with a substantial tribute, which Edgar gladly accepted, for now at least. By the autumn of 1101 AD, the new homesteads in Edinburgh were bringing in new quantities of food, proving to be a sound investment. Public order was under control in York, greatly assisted by Edgar's reluctance to sack the town upon its capture. But the main development came from Leicester, where Philip had spotted a growing English force under the command of Edward and Bealdhall. Although of no significant threat to Scotland at this moment in time, Edgar knew he would need to combat this force in order to clear the road to London. Yet his garrison at York was minimal, and with an English expedition still roaming the north of the country, he could not afford to leave the town just yet. His next victory over the English would have to wait.